to his disciples, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you. Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. You remember that iconic line of Dorothy's in The Wizard of Oz, and of course, Dorothy and her little dog, Toto, were not in Kansas anymore. They had sheltered down. That's the new term of the trade, isn't it? It means hide your face. They had sheltered down in this home, and a tornado was taking them up and landed them in the magical land of Oz. And it seems that the only way that Dorothy can get home to Kansas is to negotiate with the Wizard of Oz. And on her way to see him, you remember the three characters that she ran into: the Scarecrow, who was looking for a brain, the Tin Man, who was looking for a heart, and the Cowardly Lion that was looking for courage. Oh my gosh, when they got to the wizard, he was awful looking. He was ferocious. He was monstrous. He was a big head made of fire and smoke. Why, it would send chills down the spine of a grown man, to say nothing of a little girl from Kansas. Now, any of you who have not seen The Wizard of Oz and would like to see it, this is a spoiler alert. So close your ears for the next minute, or go to sleep like some do here at my sermons, because I'm going to tell you what the wizard was really like. Toto, that brave little dog, grabs the curtain by his mouth and pulls it back, and there is not a monster at all. It's an elderly man, an illusionist, who with smoke and mirrors delivered was making the appearance of this giant, ferocious, terrifying head. What's more, this illusionist was a tender wizard. He gave Dorothy's three companions gifts to assure the Scarecrow that he had a brain, and the Tin Man that he had a heart, and the Cowardly Lion that he had courage. But that wizard was nothing like anyone expected he would be. Now, at the time of Jesus, the Jews for 1,500, maybe 2,000 years, had been told what the Messiah would look like. They had been told by the prophets, you are bad people. You are not following the Lord. You are going to go to hell. You're going to be judged. You're going to be condemned. They had heard this and heard this and heard this. So when the disciples screwed up their courage to ask Jesus, increase our faith, and they would need more faith for the days ahead, because he and his disciples were on their way to Jerusalem, where Jesus would be tried, nothing like the judge's court, convicted, and given capital execution. So they needed more faith. And so they expected Jesus' reply. Increase your faith. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, why, you could produce all sorts of miracles. And that's what they expected to hear. After 2,000 years of being emotionally and psychologically beaten down by the prophets and the scribes and the Pharisees, the world at that time was filled with bad news. And so they kind of expected Jesus to say that. And there were two implications of what Jesus said. One was, in this saying, when they said, increase our faith, there's an implication that they had faith already, and they just wanted more. Now, from Jesus' standpoint, when he said, if you had the faith of the size of a mustard seed, his implication is, you don't have any faith at all. Bad news, indeed. Many congregations don't have the benefit of a preacher who would travel more than 100 miles on his own dime to do some field research for his sermon. But yesterday, I went to Tulsa. I drove to the Barnes & Noble bookstore by Woodland Hills Mall, and I went in to do some research in there. I haven't written it down because I want to make sure I got it right. I found in that one store, there were 11 shelves with 682 books on Christian living. Boy, is that great? Isn't it wonderful that our faith inspires so much interest in how to live correctly? 682 books. Let me put it in context. 11 shelves. There were 55 shelves with 3,410 books on self-improvement. By the way, that doesn't include some shelves on improving your sex life. I was not keen on leaving scene counting the books. So there's really more than 3,410 books on self-improvement. Now, if that is any proxy for our culture today, you can see what a heavy load Christianity has in telling people that you need to increase your faith, and what's more, you must be like a slave. Our culture promotes, from the moment our little ones can learn, we're promoting self-esteem, independence, confidence. Be able to plan your life and then execute that plan to a T. So you can see what Christianity, you can see maybe why we're literally called a post-Christian, after Christianity society. Because we are countercultural. We are not slavish. We are not slave-like. And we are go-getters. We're in that 55 shells of building your self-esteem and your confidence. I made a kind of a false assumption about Jesus and his disciples. Increase your faith. If you had the faith of a tiny mustard seed, you could do miracles. Does that sound like the Jesus that you love and that you worship and that you adore? Doesn't sound like my Jesus. What if Jesus had said it this way? Increase your faith. Well, if you had just enough faith of a tiny mustard seed, we could do all sorts of miracles. And guys and gals, you've got that faith. God gave you that faith. You've got plenty of faith. All you need to do is embrace it and to live it out. Kind of a different tone, isn't it? And by the way, you don't have to earn it through orthodox thinking. You don't have to earn it through proper goody behavior. God has given you more than enough faith to do what you need. If you will just behave like slaves. So there's the hard part again. Behave like slaves. You see, what I think what Jesus was saying to his disciples was as hard to sell for them, for some of those upright and capable Jews. It was as hard to sell then as it is for us independent people, full of self-esteem and capable people. What Jesus is saying is faith consists of giving up your own agenda, of abandoning your own personal desires and work, of abandoning the idea that we can succeed and depend on ourselves and not relying on the word of the Son of God and relying on the Father who sent the Son. You see, that's what slaves don't have. By the way, Jesus was not arguing for a slave society. He wouldn't anymore have approved of slavery in our country than you and I do. But what he was saying is, like a slave who relinquishes their self-direction in life to their master. That's what you and I are to do with Jesus. And if we have that faith, we will be able to produce miracles. I was just thinking, there's kind of an irony that when President Obama was inaugurated, our first black president in the United States, he was in the Capitol building, a building built largely on slave labor, not largely, to a large extent on slave labor. If that Capitol building, which has stood now for 200, 300 years, is kind of an emblem of power and strength, but maybe not these days, but has been for a long time. Think about who is going to build the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is going to be built on slave labor, on your labor and mine. when we turn to the Word of God, as we find it in Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Master.